Okay, so good day, class. So for today's topic, we will discuss the overview of the accounting process. Okay, so accounting process, it is applicable to all types of business entities. So, but for our midterm coverage, we'll focus first on a service concern entities. So transactions of a service concern entities. So for the accounting process, I will discuss here the overview only of the whole accounting process, but I will discuss in a separate video in details the process. Okay, so since this is a process, accounting process, so it undergoes a step-by-step process. So you need to uh, finish first the step 1 before you can proceed to step 2, to step 3, step 4, and step 5. So dapat sunod-sunod gid siya guys because it's a process. Diba? You cannot proceed to step 5 if you did not uh, undergo the process from step 1 to step 4. Okay, so this is the overview of the accounting process. Okay, so we have 9 steps under the accounting process. So if you have noticed, maybe some of the books, there are 10 steps in some of the books, but I will follow this accounting process na merong 9 steps lang. Okay, so first you have step 1, that is analyzing source documents. Step 2, recording in journal or journalizing. Step 3, posting to the ledger. Step 4, unadjusted trial balance. Step 5, adjusting entries. Step 6, financial statements. Step 7, closing entries. Step 8, post-closing trial balance or preparation of the post-closing trial balance. Step 9 is the reversing entries. So as you have noticed, there are 2 phases under the accounting process. You have the recording phase and you have the summarizing phase. Under the recording phase, that's step 1 to step 3. So you have analyzing source documents, recording in journal, and posting to the ledger. So that is the recording phase. While step 4 to step 9, that is the summarizing phase. So among all the steps, step 8 and step 9 are optional steps or process. Therefore, you're not required to do step 8 and step 9. And starting step 1 to step 7, these are required steps. So you need to follow the process, the steps, before you can create the output of the report. Okay, so under step 4 is the starting point of your worksheet because okay, this is the starting point of your worksheet. Okay, so step 4, unadjusted trial balance. Okay, so again, this is a step-by-step process. So you need to go step 1 first before you can proceed to step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. So this is a process. Okay, so dili pwedeng step 5 ka diretso, step 6 ka diretso, wala ka niag step 1, step 2, step 3. Okay. Under the recording phase, you have step 1, analyzing source documents. So why do we need to analyze a source document? So these are identification of events to be recorded. Take note that again, not all business transactions are accountable events, di ba? Or accountable transactions, di ba? Transactions are only accountable if it has effect on your asset, liabilities, and owner's equity. Therefore, we need to identify which of the business transactions are accountable. So we only uh, recognize or record those transactions that are accountable. Let's say we need to analyze first the source documents. Source documents, example of these are yung mga resibo, di ba? You have the receipts, you have mga invoices, you have mga vouchers. So you need to analyze first the documents if accountable ba siya or dili. Then, under also analyzing source documents to gather information about transactions or events generally through the source document. So again, so Kaya lang tan-awon ang source document. So if naabay resibo, if naabay invoices, if naabay vouchers, delivery receipts, and other source documents mo ni mga papers nga mo ni imong basihan, tan-awon nimo, you analyze before you proceed with the next step. This under step 1. So you analyze first the source documents. And again, you need to identify if the transaction is accountable or not. Okay. So that is step 1. So analyzing source document. After you have identified the transactions, you have analyzed the source documents and identified those accountable transactions, then that's the time you proceed to step 2. That is recording in the journal. So this is the time now that you will recognize or record the transaction. So by creating an entry or journal entry, that is debit and credit. Okay, to record the economic, so under recording in the journal, to record the economic impact of transactions on the firms in a journal, which is form that facilitates the transfer the account. Okay, so recording of the entity's transaction in a chronological order. So when you are preparing journal entries in your journal, uh, naka-arrange siya chronologically. So based on the date na siya. So from like for example, January 1 transactions up to December 31 transactions. So mag-record na ka. So recording of the it shows all the effects of a business transaction in terms of debits or credit. So everything katong mga transactions nga imong na-analyze, na-identify that are accountable transactions, all those accountable transactions are recorded in the journal. So it shows all the effects of a business transaction in terms of debits and credits. So tanan transactions nga accountable are recorded in your journal. So a journal is called the book of original entry. Therefore, all of the transactions are written or are recorded in the journal or the book of original entry. So this is example, this is your journal. So every time when you analyze the source documents and you have identified already those accountable transactions, then you recognize or you record the transactions in the journal. So manang mag-record ta on sa mga transactions affected, unsa atong ipang debit, unsa atong ipang credit. So tanan transactions recorded can be found in the journal, or this is also called as the book of original entry, because this is kumbaga the first diri nimo gisulat una ang transactions. Okay, so after you identify the source documents, identify the accountable transactions, you journalize those accountable transactions in a journal. Then after you journalize the transactions, step 3 is posting to the ledger. So each account, katong mga accounts nga imong gigamit diri, gi-debit, gi-credit nimo like cash, accounts receivable, so we post it to the ledger. So under step 3, this to transfer the information from journal to the ledger for classification. This time, we need to classify each account. So under this date, unsa nga account itong gi-debit, unsa atong account gi-credit. So basically, so from your journal, you post it to the ledger. We say ledger, this libro sa kada account. Diba? So daghan ni siya nga libro. So example, this is the book of cash, this is the book of accounts payable. Okay, this is the book of accounts receivable, this is the book of your sales. So isa-isa sa kumbaga ledger, libro sa kada account, diba? Because in your journal, tanan transactions na diri naka-record. So you need to classify now, kani nga transaction na ako'y cash debit. So ako siyang ibutang sa libro ni cash, naka-debit. So basically, ledger is pwede ta mo gamit og T account. Diba? This is the T account of cash. So tan-aw kasi mong journal, giunsa man nako ano yung transaction na abay cash, naka-debit. So kung ibutang diri transfer, i-post lang nimo, i-transfer nimo. Diri nga transaction naka-credit, so post nimo. Okay, that is your ledger. That is the ledger. So kumaga book of each account. So from your journal, i-transfer lang nimo, i-classify nimo each account. So imong hagpaton ang mga entries, mga accounts nga magigamit para ma-post nimo siya sa ledger sa kada account. Okay. So makita diri tanan sa imong ledger like kang cash, all transactions regarding cash. So makita tanan debits cash unsa nga date, kita pa di mo tanan credits ni cash unsa nga date. At the same time, you can compute the balance as of kani nga date. Ay ba, by preparing the T account sa ledger, makita nimo siya. So this is step 3, posting to the ledger. So from the journal, you classify and you post it to each of the ledger of each account or book of each account. So mana siya. So you can also use the account for para mas simple siya gamiton. Okay, so that is the recording phase. So you have analyzing after you have analyzed the source documents, because not all business transactions are accountable. So we analyze the source documents and then we identify those transactions that are accountable. And once we identify the accountable transactions, that's the time we record it in our journal in step 2. So we record it in the book of original entry. After recording all the transactions, we post each account to each ledgers, diba? So post it from journal, we classify those accounts na gigamit nimo sa imong journal, then post it to its ledger, di ba? Libro sa kada account nimo. Next is summarizing phase. So step 4, that is unadjusted trial balance. So this is now the starting point of the preparation of your worksheet. So this is the first line item in your worksheet, unadjusted trial balance. So di ba from the ledger kagaina, you have T accounts, di ba? T accounts ni cash, T accounts ni accounts payable. So because na-classify naman nato gikan sa atong journal, na transfer na ng debits, credits under this account, then we can compute the balances. Like for example, na-balance kang cash dire, na-balance kang accounts payable dire, na credit because normal balance is credit. Therefore, in step 4, under unadjusted trial balance, you just need to get the balance per account. So that's cash, accounts payable, pilay balance niya. Therefore, mo na siya ang unadjusted trial balance. This to provide a listing to verify the equality of debits and credits in the ledger. At the same time, unadjusted trial balance, makita nimo to verify if equal ba ang imong total debits and credits. Because diba sa imong ledger, makompute nimo ang balances per account, then ato sang i-plus-star, kauna to ang balances per account. So, i-total na to kung equal ba siya imong debits at credits. Pag dili na sa equal, na makulbaan na mo. Diba? Because naay mali sa inyong gibuhat. Diba? Ana siya. So, step 1 pa lang, you need to be very careful in step 1 because once there are transactions nga inyong na-appeal pero dili sa dapat, magpadayon na siya. So, mali na daan. Step 1 pa lang. So, dapat careful mo pag-analyze sa source documents. Diba? Because can be very crucial siya. Then, pag record po ninyo, you need to be careful sa mga accounts ninyong gamiton. So, mas maayo, mas dali siya, mas okay siya if there are na chart of accounts i-provide because you can choose the accounts, di ba, sa chart of accounts. Then, posting to the ledger. So, bantay pod mo because kadagang transactions i-record basin malibat ba pag-transfer sa amounts. So, bantay lang ninyo. Okay, so, here, unadjusted trial balance. So, this time, prepare din taog worksheet. So, this is the starting point of your worksheet. So, after unadjusted trial balance, then, preparation of adjusting entries. Okay, so, among all the process, based on feedbacks, at the same time, based on personal experience, this is the most difficult part of the accounting process, which is the adjusting entries because dagan siya kote. Okay, so what is the purpose of adjusting entries, or what is the purpose of the preparation of adjusting entries? So it is to update the balances of accounts, diba? To update and correct the balances of accounts because this is unadjusted, diba? So this is wala pa ni siya na-adjust, unadjusted pa ni siya. Then there are items, there are transactions na we need to adjust. Okay, so that's why we need to update at the end of the period. We need to update the balances of accounts and we need to correct the balances of each accounts. Okay, that's why we need to prepare adjusting entries. Adjusting entries compose at least one nominal account and one permanent account. Take note that if you prepare adjusting entries, it should be composed of at least one nominal account and one permanent account. Or one nominal account, this is temporary, one nominal or temporary account. Isa itong temporary or nominal account, these are your income and expenses account. Okay. And one permanent or real accounts. Kinsa yung mga permanent or real accounts, your asset, liabilities, and equity account. And owner's equity accounts. So take note that when you prepare adjusting entry, it should compose at least one nominal account and one permanent account. So if you're adjusting entry, duha ka nominal account, tapos walay permanent account, mali imong entry. So guide po ninyo, di ba, para in preparing adjusting entries, tama inyong gibuhat. Okay. So there are 7 normal adjusting entries. So that is why medyo kuti siya because daghan siya. Dahan you need to consider 7 normal adjusting entries. So first, you have ending inventory. We'll discuss this on a merchandising part nga discussion. You have depreciation. This is paggamit sa mga long-term assets like property, plant, and equipment. You have doubtful accounts. This is related to your accounts receivable nga portion of sa imong gipautang, di ba? Posible di siya makolekta. Accrued expenses, these are expenses accrued. When you say accrued, pag may tag-accrual, accrued, nagamit na pero wala pa nabayaran. So, gamit una before bayad. So, gigamit na to una ang building pero wala pa takabayad sa renta. That's why accrued expenses is a liability account, diba? It's a payable. Accrued income, this is nag-render na taog service. Okay, accrued income, or this is also accrued income, so nag-render na taog service pero wala pa ta nabayaran ni customer. Diba? So nag-render na taog service pero wala pa ta nabayaran ni customer. So this is accrued income. Next is you have prepaid expenses. So money katong gibayaran na to una, kag prepayments or prepaid, gibayaran na to una pero wala pa nato nagamit. Example, rental, nagbayad na ta good for 1 year pero wala pa ta ka-start og gamit sa building. Okay, that is prepaid, di ba? Prepaid, gibayaran una. Under prepaid expenses, we have 2 methods. You have asset method and expense method. So, we'll discuss this thoroughly on the adjusting entries part na discussion. Okay, so last is the deferred income. Say deferred, deferral or prepayment, that's the same ha. So when say deferral, deferred, gibayaran na taon na pero wala pa ta ka-render og service. Diba? Kumbaga, bookkeeper ko, gibayaran na ko September 1 bisang wala pa na human ang September 30. O po ko ka-render og service. Therefore, that is deferred income. That is a liability account. Mo po ni sa this is also called as katong unearned revenues. Diba? This unearned revenues. Pariharan na sila. Unearned revenues. This is a liability account. Okay, unearned revenues. So, under deferred income, adjusting entry, we have 2 methods also. You have the liability method and income method. So, medyo mo aning nakapakomplicate sa adjusting entries. So, but sige lang, we will discuss this thoroughly on our next discussion. So, our next video discussion. Okay, that is step 5. After you prepare adjusting entries, so by the way, adjusting entries is prepared at the end of the reporting period, di ba? Adjustment siya. So, at the end of the reporting period, yun din yung siya gina-prepare ang adjusting entries. So, step 6, after you have prepared the adjusting entries, so basically, mamani imong unadjusted trial balance, diba mo ni, for example, kang cash, so this is your unadjusted trial balance, nakay balance dire, but what if naapay siya sa adjustment, so imo lang idugang. Okay, ano siya, then makakompute ka. This is now the adjusted balances. Okay, after you have computed prepared the adjusting entries and computed the updated and correct balances of account, then we can now proceed to step 6, which is the preparation of the financial statements. Because adjusted na ang balances of each account, this time we can now prepare the financial statements. Okay, so there are complete set of general purpose financial statements. So we have 6. We have statement of financial position. Okay, di ba? unsa nga mga accounts ang makita diri, those are real and permanent accounts or your asset or your ALE, liability and equity or owner's equity. So second is income statement or statement of financial performance. So kinsa nga mga items ang makita diri, elements, you have the nominal or temporary account which is your income and expenses account. Statement of comprehensive income, you have actually pwede siya i-combine income statement and statement of comprehensive income, but according to the separate lang nato siya. So statement of changes in equity, you have statement of cash flows and notes comprising summary of significant accounting policies and other explanatory information. So kaning notes mo ni ang supporting sa imong sa imong statements. So kung mga explanations na adikto makita sa notes to your financial statements. After you have prepared the financial statements, then let's proceed with step 7, closing entries. So this, after you prepare the closing entries, syempre you journalize the entries and you post it to its respective accounts kasi itong affected. So what is the purpose of closing entries? So its purpose is to zero out, take note of this, zero out temporary accounts by transferring all temporary accounts to a permanent account. Diba? That's the reason why income and expenses are called nominal or temporary accounts, because at the end of the period, they are close to a permanent account. Their balances will not be carried forward to the next accounting period because temporary lang sila, intended for that certain period only. Because again, at the end of the year, it will be zero out. It will be close to a permanent account, which is the owner's equity account or the equity account. Okay, that is the reason why temporary lang si income and expenses account or nominal accounts sila. Gitawag sila temporary accounts because at the end of the year, i-close sila. Diba? So sila atong i-close diri sa closing entries. So we only close those temporary accounts. We don't close permanent accounts. Okay. So we only close or we zero out the balances of the temporary accounts by preparing a closing entries. Okay. So since na-close naman siya, na zero out ang atong mga temporary accounts, so the next step is preparation of post-closing trial balance. This is after the closing entry. So you now prepare trial balance na pod siya. So the purpose of this is to check the equality of debits and credits after closing. So check nato if balance ba atong debits and credits. But take note, under post-closing trial balance, zero na ang balance ni income and expense. So the only accounts or elements that are left under the post-closing trial balance, ang makita sa post-closing trial balance, is only your asset, liabilities, and equity account or the real or permanent accounts lang ang makita sa post-closing trial balance. Because again, temporary accounts na-close na diri, na zero out na sa step 7. Paabot sa step 8, wala na. Wala na kayo makita nga expense and income account dito nga balance. Step 9, the last step for the accounting process is the reversing entries. So reversing entries made at the beginning of the next period. Take note that reversing entries are made at the beginning of the next period. If your ending is December 31, 2019, so you prepare the reversing entries on January 1, 2020. That is the beginning of the next period. So generally, reversing entries should be made for any adjusting entry that increase an asset or a liability account. So therefore, we only reverse those entries na katong adjusting entry. Diba? We have 7 normal adjusting entry. So, but dili pud tanan adjusting entry atong i-reverse. So we only reverse those adjusting entry that increase an asset or a liability account. Take note, that's or, ha? So that increase asset or a liability account. To simplify, so another purpose also of reversing entry is to simplify the recording of certain regular transactions in the next accounting period para ma-normalize imong pag-journal entry for certain transactions in the next accounting period. That's why we prepare reversing entries. So para ma-normal siya, para kung unsa lang to kung unsa imong normal nga recording, balik ra pud to siya for some transactions, for certain transactions. So, di ba, we only reverse entries katong mga adjusting entry that increase an asset or liability account. So basically, these are the adjusting entries Now we need to reverse. So this adjusting journal entries to be reversed. So first, you have accrual of income. So kung accrued income nga adjustments, we reverse. Kailangan siya i-reverse. Subject for reversal siya. If naputay accrued expenses, subject for reversal siya. If we have prepaid expense, diba, remember, there are two methods under prepaid expense. But only the expense method is subject for reversal. And under deferred income, we also have two methods, and only income method is only subject for reversal. Okay, so take note again that step 8 and step 9 are optional step. So therefore, you are not required to prepare a post-closing trial balance and to reverse the entries. But again, the purpose of reversing entry is to simplify the recording of some regular transactions in the next accounting period. Ito lang siya. But actually, you're not required to post-close or prepare a reversing entries. So when are we going to prepare? So tanaw na to siya. Analyzing source documents every time there is a transaction. So, di ba? So, we analyze the source documents every time there's a transaction. We recording in journal. So, every time there is a transaction. Posting to the ledger. So, mas better siya if i-prepare siya every time po there is a transaction. So, gina-update mo sa especially kung manual, imong gina-post diretso kay para dili po sa malimtan. But you can also set some periods like monthly, baka mag-post sa imong ledger, diba? But recording in journal, so every time there's a transaction, as much as possible, record sa dito sa journal. Then, pwede na po di mo sa i-post dito sa ledger. But pwede po siya tib-on nimo, diba? Every month baka kang mag-post sa imong ledger. An adjusted trial balance is prepared at the end of the reporting period. Okay, katapusan na ka mag-prepare ani. Okay, at the end of the reporting period, adjusting entries are also prepared at the end of the reporting period. Financial statements, you prepare the FS at the end of the reporting period. Okay, closing entries at the end of the reporting period. Post-closing trial balance at the end gyapon ni, and reversing entries beginning of the next accounting period. Dito ka mag-prepare. Okay, I guess that's all for the overview of the accounting process. So for our midterm coverage, we will focus on the service concern ng mga transactions. So we apply the accounting process on a service concern entities, transactions of a service concern entities. So I hope you have learned something from this discussion. So thank you for listening.